The kingdom of the wild was once shrouded in mystery. People know that the castle housed the king and his 4 sons, but they hardly left the castle. They were almost never seen beyond its tall walls, and even then, no one had ever seen them, only heard the few stories that escaped the palace tall walls. But everything would soon change. Being the youngest daughter of the kingdom of the moon, and the only one of your sisters not already engaged, it wasn't surprising to you when the ball invitations started to arrive. You were a hot ticket among the eligible princes and kings-to-be, apparently. Finally, the invitation for the only ball you had any real interest in attending had arrived. Your Grace, a letter. Your handmaiden, a beautiful young woman named Alicia, delivered it one morning, just after you had gotten dressed. And just where is this letter from? The kingdom of the wild, my lady. Thank you, Alicia. She handed you the letter. You carefully peeled back the wax seal and opened the envelope, revealing the fine paper within. Princess of the Kingdom of the Moon, I hope this letter reaches you in good health. You are hereby invited to the masquerade ball to be held in the castle of the wild on the 12th night of this month. Prince Leonardo wishes you the best and hopes to see you in attendance, as your actions in the Kingdom of the Moon have made quite an impression on him. He has sent also a dress for the event that he hopes is to your liking. The note was stamped with the seal of the Kingdom of the Wild. He sent a dress? You asked. Yes, he did. Would you like me to have it brought up? Yes, please. We couldn't help but be a little bit interested in this. Out of all the invitations you had received, none of them had come with gifts. A few minutes later, the gown was brought up to your chambers. It was long blue ball gown with the satin puffs at the top of the sleeves and fine lace along the edge of the skirt. The color of the dress was unlike anything you had ever seen. It was vibrant and deep and absolutely regal. It had come with a detailed masquerade mask made of the same fabric of the skirt and lined in with lace. And as you were admiring the craft of the thing, you happened upon a piece of paper hidden inside, another note. Princess, I apologize for the last note you received. I had wished to send something more personal to you, but my advisors thought against it for fear I might disclose private matters. However, I did wish to write you something to you myself, so I did. I hope you will attend the ball, as I have been anxious to meet you for some time now. Please come with an open mind. As to why, I am not at liberty to say, but I hope you will not judge us too harshly. If you come, I will be the one wearing blue. Prince Leonardo. You read the note over a few more times, studying his penmanship and the mystery behind his careful words. Nonetheless, you picked up a roll of paper and dipped a quill in ink and wrote your reply. A raven arrived this morning from the Kingdom of the Moon. Lady April walked into the grand hall, directly to the eldest prince, and offered the tiny scroll addressed to him. A reply from the princess, perhaps? One can only hope. Leonardo held out a large green hand and took the tiny scroll carefully, being gentle to unroll it so he could read it. A smile spread across his face as he read the rose you had written. Prince Leonardo, I write you to tell you I will be in attendance at your ball. Thank you for the beautiful gown you sent. I assure you, I shall put it in good use. I look forward to making your acquaintance in person and promise to come with an open mind and an open heart. I, too, shall be the one wearing blue. Is she coming? She is. Leonardo rolled up the parcel of paper and tucked it away. A warm feeling flooded his chest. She was going to meet him, and by the sound of it, she was exactly the type of future queen he was looking for. Your Grace, I was hoping for some opinions on arrangements for tomorrow evening. Yes, of course. Leonardo stood up and followed Lady April, and despite the many activities, all he could think of or focus on the rest of the day was you. You arrived at the ball by carriage wearing the gorgeous gown Leonardo had sent to you. The mask was tied around your face and your hands were covered in fine white gloves. You collected the skirt in your hands and took careful steps out of the carriage, assisted by a footman. Then you followed the stream of nobles up the carpeted stairs into the castle. Inside, the ballroom was filled with guests dancing, some were chatting idly, and above it all, 4 princes sat on 4 thrones with the king in the center. The one at the right hand of the king was indeed dressed in blue. The same shade were you wearing, and when he spotted you in the crowd, you could have sworn you saw him wink at you. It was in that moment that you had to do a double take. The princes were not ordinary in any meaning of the word. Their skin were green and scaly, and as you got further into the ballroom, you could make out 3 fingers on each hand. They were each propped up in the seat as though there was something resting against their backs, and yet his blue eyes pierced you, as human as the crowd assembled to finally look at the elusive rulers of the wild kingdom. And though he was different, that was as certain. You stood there unafraid, eyes locked on his, watching as a slow smile crept across his face. You couldn't help but smile back and do a small courtesy. He leaned over to his father, told him something, and then stood up from his throne, swiftly but gracefully making his way through the crowd, then stood between you. He was tall, handsome, dressed in a blue suit that matched yours, and around his eyes was a blue mask. Nice to finally meet you, princess. Likewise, you held out your hand and he took it in his, bowing down to press a sweet kiss to the back of it. You're taller than I expected. That's one way to put it, I suppose, he chuckled. Might I have this dance? Of course. You slipped your hand into his and the 2 of you walked out into the center of the room. The orchestra picked up at the side of their princes and finally entering the waltz with the rest of the guests. The 2 of you practically glided across the floor, moving together with grace. Leonardo couldn't seem to keep his eyes off of you, and the look on your face filled his chest with warmth. You danced for what seemed like hours until Leonardo leaned forward to whisper in your ear, "How about we get some fresh air?" "I'd like that very much," you nodded. He offered his arm, and you wrapped an arm around it, letting him escort you out of the ballroom to the gardens. It was a gorgeous place filled with colorful flowers and fireflies. A large fountain sat in the center of the yard, surrounded by paths that led through the hedges. Leonardo, thank you for the dress and the amazing evening. Thank you for coming with an open mind, princess. Promised I would. You looked up at him. The way the moonlight danced across his features set your heart ablaze. I just want you to know this. He motioned to himself and held one of his large green hands out in front of him. This doesn't go away at midnight. It's not a curse or a spell. It's who I am. It was silent. You didn't know what to say, so instead, you reached up and brushed his cheek with your hand, bringing his face down to look at you. I know. Your voice was quiet but sincere, and the smile on your face sent Leonardo's doubts flying. I've been to 30 balls this month, and this is the only one I've actually enjoyed. So, that means... Leonardo, I like you. A lot. Of all of my suitors, you're by far my favorite. I think you'll make a fine queen one day. Leonardo's voice was gentle. One of his fingers brushed the hair out of your face. And I will gladly call you my king. In a bold move empowered by the warmth buzzing in his chest, Leonardo leaned forward and captured your lips in a loving kiss.